Welcome to Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial, the home for financial advice in a language you can understand. Created by Marc Freedman of Freedman Financial, he and his team of certified financial planner professionals will discuss timely topics that help individuals and families make smart financial decisions. And now, get ready for this week's edition of Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial.
Welcome back to another edition of Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial. My name is Marc Freedman.
And I'm Marion Gilman.
And we're here to provide you with some financial advice in a language you can understand. We just returned from the LPL Focus Conference that was out in San Diego. We got to do a couple sessions there.
Absolutely. It was an awesome time. Always good information.
And I hope you enjoyed the podcast that we broadcast live from the exhibit hall. So we get home, we get back to the office, and of course it's business as usual, and clients are calling, and we deal with all sorts of financial planning issues, investment-related issues, etc. But we've had a couple interesting calls this past week, and it made us think about some of the planning pointers that we can provide to you that are some great lessons as you begin to think about your financial future. And oftentimes, it doesn't necessarily relate to, did I pick the right investment or the wrong investment? It's a bigger issue than that, isn't it, Mary?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, interestingly enough, this week, and actually, this is very common in our office. We do have a fair amount of people who die, so we have had clients for many, many years, and most of our clients come to us when they are going into retirement, preparing for retirement, in retirement, and living off their money, essentially. And at a certain point, they get older and they do pass away. So, we were hit with a couple of things this week where it was really eye-opening because we had two different clients. One who had prepared very well for what happens after she passes away. Another one who had not prepared well at all. And it was, it's been a very difficult situation for the one who was unprepared and for whom they've left behind. This is a really tough thing.
So maybe you can give us some details
Absolutely.
of what happened. Of course, we're not going to mention the client or anything like that. We just kind of stick to the generalities because it's a great lesson.
So what you want to understand is that any bank account, any investment account, any asset that you own, in order for it to pass to somebody else, it should have a named beneficiary on it, if possible. And everybody assumes that because they have a will, everything will go through the will. And that's true. Everything can go through the will, but that presents its own set of problems.
So let me back up just a little bit. You mentioned the word named beneficiary. What do you mean by that?
So meaning that you have a person named and some document on the account that says, if anything happens to me, this is who I want to receive this money.
Now that's separate from the will, right?
That is separate from the will. So on a retirement account, any retirement account, while you're setting it up, will ask you to name a beneficiary. And it's right on that document. So it's very unusual that retirement accounts don't have a named beneficiary because you can't really open the account unless you have one. However, if you're opening an account that is not a retirement account, an investment account, a bank account, it can just be in your name. And that's very common that you have an account just in your name. For instance, I can go to the bank and I have an account that says Marion Gilman on it, bank account.
And you can tell that when you get your monthly statement, when you get your quarterly statement, when you look online, the registration is generally right on the statement there. And it will tell you if it's just in your name or if it's in joint name or if it's some other designation as well.
Now be aware that with a retirement account, you cannot make it a joint name, but you have a named beneficiary. On a checking account or on a regular investment account, you can make that a joint account if you would like it to be joint with your spouse or joint with a child. Or if you don't want this to be a joint account, if it's only your money, you can also name beneficiaries on a bank account or on an investment account. And that takes an extra step and you have to request it.
It's called a transfer on death, is what Marion's referring to. You hear the term TOD, which stands for transfer on death. You can actually name, let's say if it was me, and I wanted to leave my individual account to two of my children, 2 of my 5 children, I could write in the registration section, TOD, transfer on death, and only at my death it would go to 2 of my children. Up until then, it is just my account.
Correct.
But I know we're talking about registrations, but let's even make this a bit more specific. What are some of the challenges that you ran into this week from our clients?
Right. So this week, what we ran into was there was a person who passed away, and there was an individual account. There's no named beneficiary on this account, no transfer on death, as Marc mentioned. It is a non-retirement account, but it has some securities in it that need to be dealt with within another couple weeks.
But that's what the will is for, right?
Yeah, that is what the will is for. Absolutely.
But so can't we just go and grab the will and say, well, the will says this is what we're supposed to do with the money?
Yeah. So unfortunately, the will is a legal document and it has to go through the court process. So in order for it to go through the court process, or in order for this to become either an estate account or an individual account, you have to be appointed as the executor of the estate or the personal representative of the person. So that is a court document. You need to be named. Has to go through the court. An attorney has to do that. It doesn't necessarily happen in an hour or 2.
But it's my understanding that the will that you've drafted says who I want my personal representative or executor to be.
That's correct. It's all there. It just takes time.
And as you well know, the courts work extraordinarily efficiently, right?
And so these assets can go through probate as well. And when they go through probate, they can be tied up for a number of years, number of months.
All right. So you got an individual account. There was no beneficiary named on the account.
Correct.
The will, you go through the probate process, and the will says who's going to get the money. And then what happens, Marion?
Well, and then you have to. You have named an estate. So the individual account has to go to an estate account that is the estate of whoever the person that passed away is, and from that point, it can then go to a beneficiary who is named in the will.
Right.
But it has that extra step in there. Because it has to go through the court system or the probate system.
And the personal representative gets appointed to the estate account.
Correct.
And it's the personal representative who ends up actually writing the checks or distributing the money or whatever it is.
Correct.
So, yeah, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, okay, it's an extra step, it's a nuisance, but what was it that happened in the office today that made it so problematic?
So what's so problematic is there's a deadline of September 15th as to when something has to happen with these stocks.
This is in
account.
this particular case.
In
not
this
September
particular
15th
case.
isn't a magical day or anything.
No. In this particular case, something needs to be done with the securities in this account by September 15th. A decision has to be made. And in order for the executor to actually make this decision and have it legally binding, it has to be in an estate account. So this is problematic. It might take longer than that for them to get the court documents, to get all of the documents necessary signed by the court to create this estate account.
So
creating the estate account is easy. Getting the court documents is
right.
not.
So if I'm watching this video, I'm thinking to myself, all right, so September 15th comes, now what happens? And you haven't gotten it done. What happens?
You lose the securities.
Is it that simple?
It's that simple. There you go.
How'd you like to deal with
that?
that?
Exactly. So this is a difficult problem, and you know what? We never know when we're going to pass away. I mean, anyone could walk out and get hit by a bus tomorrow. So don't wait until you say, "Oh, I'll do this next year. I'll do it when I'm older. Or I'll do it this time. I'll do it that time." You really, particularly people who are single and have a lot of their assets potentially in individual name, you want to be sure that you have that set up. Because honestly, yes, it will go to your next of kin, but you might not want it to go there. you might want it to go to someone else. And telling a friend or telling whomever might not be good enough.
So forgive me. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here a
Go
little
right
bit.
ahead.
I'm sitting there as if I'm watching this video and I'm thinking, okay, are you telling me all stocks, or was this a different particular type of stock,
no.
or a particular type of structure of a stock product?
So this is a structure of a stock that had an expiration date to have something done with
What
it.
type of stocks have an expiration date, Marion?
Stock options, restricted stock, mostly corporate stock, although there are some warrants and rights that you can buy that also have restrictions
So
on
this
them.
is generally a type of stock that we ran into with a person
Correct.
that had the opportunity to buy stock options or was given stock options with the company that they work with. But there comes a period of time when you're granted stock options where you need to what's called exercise, buy those stocks within a period of time. And there is a very definitive expiration date.
Correct.
And if you choose not to exercise your stock by that date, it just goes away. It's just you don't have the right to buy it anymore.
And the same thing with restricted stock.
Same thing, right.
You have to claim it by a certain date. There is an expiration date. If you don't do it by then, it's gone.
So that's one of those instances. And I'll be very honest, it's a rarity that we see that happen, but it is something that popped up. But I know that there was another instance here in the office, Marion, also. Wasn't there where we've had some contention about who's supposed to get the money, who somebody thought they were going to get something, but mom left it differently than they had thought?
Absolutely. And so if you do have named beneficiaries on your account, please know that you can't name a person to get it and assume that they're just going to receive that money and divide it up among other people. And a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, I'm just gonna put my," and we see this a lot. "I'm going to put my daughter's name to be joint on my bank account where there might be $200,000, and she'll give it to her siblings
When
and
I
divide
die,
it
she'll
up.
just divide the money
She'll
up."
just divide the money up. She knows that's what I want." You can't assume that, because guess what? It is her money once she gets it. She has no obligation to give it to anyone else. So it's hers. You name somebody, it's theirs. Legally, you can't do anything about it, or the person who's the executor, if it's somebody different than the inheritor, can't do anything about it.
So let's also imagine that you had a retirement account. And let's say you have 3 children and your spouse has passed away, it's just you're going to leave it. You figure the 3 children will get it, but the document that you get from work only has one line for a beneficiary. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't add more beneficiaries, but you see, it's just one line. So you name your oldest daughter as the beneficiary, knowing full well you'd hope it would go to the 3 kids, because you figure, when my oldest daughter inherits this, she'll just give it off to the 3 children. It's not that simple. Legally,
really not.
Your daughter gets the whole thing. And if she wants to transfer this money to her other siblings, transfer a portion of it, there could be a tax liability involved. There could be all sorts of complications. So what we're trying to tell you is that as much as it's important to build a plan, to structure your investment strategy, to have the right protections in place, to do everything you need, the way in which you submit your documents, the registration, the beneficiaries on every type of asset and liability that you might have is critically important, because God forbid something happens to you suddenly, and you may have these expectations of what you think will happen when you die. It may not work out that way.
That's right.
It's one of the few things one of the many things I should say, that we do as we look to serve our clients and understand the complexities of your financial life, so that we make sure that your wishes are not only carried out when you're alive, but also after you have passed away.
And it's also extremely important, I feel anyways, that you should, if you have a joint account, a non-retirement account that's a joint account, and you say, I've already named somebody. For instance, my husband and I have a joint account. And we have named a beneficiary on that as well. Because what if he and I got in a car accident, or we had we've traveled together all the time. What if we both, were in a plane accident? Hopefully none of that happens, but you want to be sure there is actually a contingency plan as well.
Yeah, and many people look, you'll hear us use the word trusts as well, and these are great solutions to try to solve the complex beneficiary issues. Perhaps you're married to a second spouse or a third spouse,
right,
or there's a blended family or whatever else it might be. All of those become conversations that we have with our clients. As I said, the investments at this point just don't matter.
It's right.
Making sure that we've structured your life properly, that your registrations are structured properly to meet your financial planning needs. And so if now's the time for you to get serious about your financial planning and your investment management needs, we'd be delighted to talk with you. Our phone number, 978-531-8108. That's 978-531-8108. Or you can visit us on the internet, freedmanfinancial.com. That's Freedman.
2 E's and a D.
Financial.com. You can go to the bottom of any page. You can put in your name and your email address, and you'll even get registered for our free weekly newsletter that's sent to over 7,000 subscribers every week. It lands in your inbox Friday at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time every single week. And of course, if you want to learn more about our firm as well, there's a lot of great information on our website about how we work, the clients we serve, our fees, our structure, all sorts of things.
What to expect when you come in for an initial consultation.
And that's really critical. You want to know what to expect.
Sure.
Let's not make this a surprise.
Right.
So you know what you're in for. That's going to do it for us this week. We'll be back again next week with another episode of Dollars and Cents. Have a great weekend, everybody.
See you later. Bye-bye.
During today's episode of Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial, your host may have discussed specific financial planning and investment ideas that are for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. Please remember that investing involves risk and may include loss of principal. Always consult a certified financial planner professional, qualified attorney, or tax advisor prior to investing to determine what is appropriate for you. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC.